The morning sun danced across the towering iron gates of the Marlowe estate, its golden trims glowing like fire under the light. But behind those beautiful gates, something far from beautiful was unfolding. A woman in an emerald green gown stood tall, her face twisted with arrogance. In her hands was a heavy bucket of dirty water. Without hesitation, she tilted it, sending the foul liquid pouring over an older woman and a small child at her side. The splash soaked their clothes, dripping into the stones below. The child cried, clutching her grandmother tightly as the older woman tried to shield her fragile body. Just then, the massive gates creaked open, and a sleek black luxury car rolled in. From it stepped Alexander Marlowe, the man the world admired, a billionaire whose name commanded power in every boardroom. But in that instant, he was not the polished businessman. He was a son and a father, frozen in disbelief at the cruelty playing out before his eyes. The world he thought he knew tilted, and nothing would ever be the same. Alexander had planned this homecoming carefully. For weeks he had been buried in endless meetings and travel. Finally, he decided to surprise the two people who meant everything to him: his mother, Eleanor, and his 7-year-old daughter, Sophie. He had dreamed of a day of laughter in the garden, of tea with his mother, of holding Sophie as she giggled with flowers in her hands. Perhaps he would even talk about the wedding plans with his fiancée, Isabella. But instead, he had walked straight into the darkest truth about the woman he intended to marry. Eleanor, in her 60s, had carried Grace all her life. After losing her husband, she raised Alexander alone with strength, dignity, and unshakable love. She had become both mother and father, guiding him into the man he was today. When Sophie's mother died while the girl was still a toddler, Eleanor stepped in again, filling the void with boundless affection. For Alexander, his mother and his daughter were not just family. They were his anchor, the very reason he faced the cutthroat storms of business each day. And Isabella? To the world she was perfect, beautiful, poised, always adorned like a queen. She looked every bit the ideal partner for a man like Alexander. But beneath the fine gowns and flawless smile, there was a coldness. Eleanor had seen it: subtle jabs, dismissive glances, cruel treatment toward the household staff. She never told her son, not wanting to break his happiness. She bore the insults in silence, believing she could endure it. But what she never imagined was Isabella's cruelty reaching Sophie. That morning, Sophie had been picking wild flowers by the fountain, her laughter echoing through the courtyard. Eleanor watched lovingly, encouraging her granddaughter's joy. Then Isabella appeared, irritation sharp in her eyes. She scolded Eleanor for letting Sophie run free, claiming it ruined the image of the grand estate. Eleanor quietly apologized, trying to take Sophie away, but Isabella was not satisfied. Her rage demanded more. She grabbed a bucket of dirty water nearby and, with a heart as hard as stone, poured it over them both. The water struck with a cruel force. Sophie screamed, clinging to her grandmother, trembling. Eleanor, soaked and fragile, tried to shield her. Isabella smirked, her lips curling with satisfaction. "This is what you deserve," she whispered to herself, believing no one important had witnessed her act. But she was wrong. Alexander had seen everything. His chest tightened as though pierced by a blade. His fists clenched, his breath ragged. He stood frozen, unable to reconcile the woman he thought he loved with the monster before him. He had envisioned Isabella as a mother to Sophie, a partner for life. Now those dreams shattered like fragile glass. Slowly he stepped forward, his shoes striking against the stone driveway. The sound made Isabella turn, and the color drained from her face. For a moment, silence filled the courtyard, thick and heavy. Alexander's eyes burned with a storm of betrayal, anger and disappointment that made Isabella's hands tremble. She stammered excuses. Eleanor had slipped. Sophie had misbehaved. It wasn't what it looked like. But Alexander saw through every word. He knelt beside Eleanor and Sophie, ignoring his expensive suit as it soaked against their drenched clothes. Sophie buried her face into his chest, sobbing, whispering she was scared. Eleanor, her voice calm but breaking, told him not to worry about her. But Alexander knew this was about more than spilled water. This was about love, respect, and dignity, things Isabella had trampled with no remorse. The engagement ended that very moment. Alexander didn't shout, he didn't argue. He simply stood, looked Isabella in the eye, and told her to leave. Her desperate protests, her tears, her pleas to reconsider, all of it fell against a wall of silence. Nothing she could say would undo what had been revealed. News of the broken engagement spread quickly, filling society pages and sparking whispers at lavish parties. But Alexander didn't care. His focus was fixed on his mother and daughter. He spent the following days making Sophie laugh again, planning picnics under the sun, telling bedtime stories he had missed. He sat with Eleanor over warm tea, cherishing her wisdom and presence. Slowly, the shadows of that terrible morning faded, replaced by the warmth of love. In the quiet of those days, Alexander realized something profound. True love is not about flawless beauty or perfect charm. It is revealed in how someone treats those who can give them nothing in return. Isabella had failed the simplest test of humanity. Eleanor and Sophie had shown him the real treasures of life: family, compassion, and loyalty. And so, Alexander chose them. Because sometimes it takes witnessing cruelty to truly see the value of kindness. And sometimes the greatest wealth a man can ever have is not counted in diamonds or gold, but in the love that binds his family together, stronger than any storm the world may bring.